jammy talk. Yep, I'm in my jammies, but I wanted to come on and share these with you because today I like to celebrate everything. So, a couple of my friends and I, actually a couple of my best friends, we have birthdays in September and the end of August, so we always go celebrate. So I'm celebrating my birthday all week. What could be more fun than that, right? But anyway, I wanted to pop on here real quick before I go over my friend Pat's house. She invited me over for lunch, and I made a cake that I'm taking over, and I'm going to post that recipe probably tomorrow. But I wanted to come on here and do some more things that I do to save money, because who doesn't want to do that, right? Okay, the number one thing I do to save money is avoid the stores. Now, when I was a shopaholic, yes, ta-da, I was a shopaholic. Um, every time I went out, I would think about things that, oh, I need this and this and this, and then I would map out my route and get what I wanted or needed. So I don't do that anymore. I mean, I never ran just out to the store, but I did plan a shopping trip almost every time I had some other things to do. I don't do that anymore, and that saves me a lot of money. Okay, so number one, the other one was like, the main title of the theme. So this is number one. I rewear my clothes and I reuse my towels, because why not? Your body's clean when you come out of the shower, so why use a clean towel? I know a lot of people like to do that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is what I do to save money. So I reuse my towels. And what else? Okay, number two, and this has to do with laundry. I wash all my undergarments, delicate lacy underwear, and all my bras. I wash them in a mesh bag. And then I hang them to dry. I don't use a dryer, and my bras and underwear last for forever, really long time. So I do that, but you have to hang them too, because the dryer will disintegrate the elastic in the pants and in the bras. Number three, I also wash my good blouses in a mesh bag. Anything that's a little bit delicate or that I don't want to get all twisted and knotted up in the wash, I wash those in a mesh bag too. And I have larger mesh bags and I have smaller mesh bags depending on what I'm washing. Number four, I make my own iced coffee. And I do that either, sometimes like I'll make a cup of coffee and then I'll go get busy and I have like maybe half a cup left over. So I put that in the fridge, and then later I add some ice cubes and I have myself some iced coffee in the afternoon. And it works out great because it doesn't melt the ice cubes real quick. Another thing you can do is freeze your coffee in ice cube trays if you have the room in the freezer, and that way it doesn't dilute your iced coffee. So that's always a good thing to do with leftover coffee, because coffee can be expensive and waste not, want not. Another thing that I can do with coffee is I make a cold brew. I've bought coffee before because I refill my own Keurig cups. And I've bought coffee before that for some reason or other, it doesn't work real well with the little K-cups, the refillable K-cups. So I'll make a cold brew out of that. And you can even make a cold brew. They make special containers, with a real fine mesh for cold brew, but If you don't have that, take an old knee-high sock, um, nylon, or an old pair of pantyhose and put your coffee grounds in there with some filtered water. Put it in the refrigerator for 24 hours and you have a delicious cold brew. Okay, number 5. Now, I've always done this, even when I was a shopaholic. Buy almost everything on sale or at a discount store. Um, I personally, I used to shop at stores like Kohl's when they had their sale and things like that, and you can get some great deals there. But I have so much in the way of clothes and that I avoid those stores now altogether. Um, because I don't need any more of anything really, other than probably food and some things that I use up. So I just avoid stores like that. And I really don't miss it. You know, the temptation is removed that way. Number 6 is I buy cards at the dollar store where you get them 2 for $1. And you can get some decent cards there. They have a really good selection. There's always people in the card section because people, I mean, I know people appreciate getting a card. I know I do. It's a fun thing and it makes you know that people are thinking of you. But realistically, unless it's a card from your children or your husband or whatever, most people don't keep cards more than a couple weeks. So that's why I make them or I buy them at the Dollar Tree. And I actually used to make my own cards. I had a program on my computer where you could design your own card and print it out on cardstock. And I have to actually look up that. I'm sure I still have the software for that. But when I switched computers, my old computer broke. I never reloaded it. But it was actually a lot of fun to do. And it was a nice hobby that you could embellish the cards or whatever. So, if you're artistic, you can make your own cards. And people would probably save those and appreciate that a lot. Number 7, I buy enough coffee, tea, creamer, um, anything that will last a month. I buy enough for a whole month now. And that's my newest strategy for the last maybe 3 or 4 months. And it's been working out great. And I just don't need to go to the store. I used to run out of coffee all the time. Creamer was the really big thing. So now I buy enough to last a whole month and it doesn't go bad. And I know coffee creamer isn't that good for you, but it's one of the vices that I do have. I like Hershey's International Delight Hershey's creamer. I think it's like a chocolate caramel or something, but I love that stuff. So I buy enough for a month. Same thing with my dog treats. I either make them treats or I buy enough for a month. So that's what I do. Um, and number 8 is I use up what I have from when I was shopping too much. So whether it's cleaner or shampoo or um, Christmas paper. Oh my gosh, I have so much Christmas paper because I would always buy some on sale when either that or I was too lazy to go up in the attic and get it. And if I was at the store, I'd say, oh, I'll just pick up this roll for, a couple bucks. I don't do that anymore. I use up what I have, or I use reuse bags that I get for Christmas. So I do that. And if you're really frugal, you can get real creative and pack up your gifts with newspaper or just um, regular brown bags and decorate them and go for a really rustic feel. So I do that. I grow and I dry my own stevia. And another thing I do is I make my own iced tea. I throw in there whatever tea bags I think might go together, and I make a very, very strong iced tea. I do have a little brew thing that I've had for years. I make it in that, and I also throw in a little handful of my dried stevia, and it gives it a sweet flavor, and it works out really well. So I do that. I tried grinding up stevia once, and I still have a little bit of it. I've used it in some baking things, but I couldn't use that in coffee or tea because even though it was a really fine powder that I ground up in my coffee mill, it doesn't melt. It just kind of floats on the top, and it was kind of gross. So that didn't work out. But if you put it in baking or anything like that, that works okay. And plus that, when you grind it up, it's green. But you can also make your own tincture out of stevia by boiling it and reducing it down, and you can make your own liquid stevia that way. I personally, I like it works great in my tea. It doesn't leave an aftertaste, but I personally like a combination of stevia and monk fruit. So Costco has a big box of, I'll show it to you. And I think you can get it at Walmart sometimes too if they're not out of it, but it's called Whole Earth, and it's a combination of stevia and monk fruit, and it doesn't have that icky aftertaste that stevia sometimes have. So I really like this stuff, and I use this all the time, but I buy a big box of it when I go to Costco, and that lasts me a long time. Number 10, I make my own bread. I make my own vegan meats or protein with things that I have on hand, and these are things that I always keep on hand. Oatmeal, nuts, beets, mushrooms, and I dry my own mushrooms and make a mushroom powder out of it because it's way, way cheaper. And I just dry my mushrooms. I uncover them and I dry them in the fridge, and the refrigerator dehydrates them. It's easy. Or stick them in the dehydrator. And I always keep some on hand of the, whole mushrooms or cut up mushrooms. I don't make them all into powder, but I use that a lot when I make my vegan proteins. Another thing I always have on hand is vital wheat gluten, textured vegetable protein, and I make almost all my food from scratch. I don't buy too many prepared foods. I do splurge on once in a while, I'll buy like Beyond Burger or something like that because you just can't get the same type of texture from a homemade burger. At least I haven't found a recipe yet. If you have one, please leave it in a comment below. That would be wonderful. Or leave a link to one that you found. That's great too. A lot of great vegan chefs out there. And I do cook mostly vegan. Even though I'm vegetarian, I just find it really hard when I go to restaurants to find anything that's vegan. But the good news is people are getting on board, and there's more and more available. I was real excited about the Impossible Burger. I did a little review on that with one of my other videos. I thought it was really good. Um, it's never that I hated the taste of meat, but once I realized the process, I can't eat it anymore. But I'm not going to talk about that. That's personal to me. So, um, but anyway, I make almost all my food, but I will sometimes buy like the crumbles or, I'll try a different veggie burger, like Aldi's will come out with some. Um, so I do that once in a while, but most of the time I make my own. And that saves me a lot of money because those things, for some reason, are really expensive. So I think because it's new and it's getting to be a trend, I haven't eaten meat in a good 7 years, but I've really seen a change where people are at least a little more health conscious, and even though they still eat meat, they maybe once or twice a week supplement that with a plant-based protein. So enough about that. I do prep, and by prepping, I don't mean chopping up food, although excuse me, I do that sometimes. I'm talking about stocking up on food, keeping the basics that I can make a lot of different meals out of, and I do stock up on those things, and I use what I have, and then I replace it so that I always have a fresh stash on hand, and I also have food if there's ever some sort of weather disaster or a medical disaster and I can't get out. Just a few more. Have a potluck and a BYOB with your friends instead of always providing all the food, all the drinks. People really don't mind bringing food. And I know with my friends and family, they always bring something. So just coordinate a potluck dinner or a potluck luncheon with your girlfriends, and that way everybody can get together and have fun, and you provide your home, and it doesn't break the bank. So I find that people really like that. And most people, or a lot of people, will bring their own beverages anyway if they like a certain drink, because if you drink alcohol, it's expensive. Now, I will have a cocktail with friends, but I don't sit and, have a cocktail every day and things like that. I just don't have a desire to do that. And with all my stomach and problems, that's not a good decision. So, um, find free hobbies. One of my favorite hobbies is making YouTube videos. It's free. You make a lot of friends on YouTube. And so that's one of the things that I do as a hobby. Another one is I take pictures. Now I know that you know you have to have a camera to do that, obviously, but I do most of my pictures on my phone, and then I load them on my computer, and I make a lot of my thumbnails that way, with pictures that I take myself, and then I go to Canva, Canva, and it allows you. It's free. They do have a paid membership you can do too, but I just use the free program, and you can make your own thumbnails there. So that's one thing you can do. Another hobby, you can learn to cook. Um, I mean, you got to eat. I know you have to buy the food, but learn to cook. Go online if you have certain amount of ingredients that you don't know what to do with. Type them in, go online, and all kinds of recipes will come up. I'm not one that follows a recipe, word for word. I always embellish my own to my own taste buds, but you have to start somewhere. So anybody can cook. I know people say, oh, I can't cook, I don't know how, but you can learn free. There's so much information on the internet. The internet is a wonderful thing. It can also be a bad thing if people use it for bad deeds, but most people, almost anything you ever want to know, you can find out on the internet. So um, you can learn to make paper beads. Now this one, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I have a lot of old magazines laying around that, I'll read that tomorrow, and then I never did. So I have, probably a stack this high of just old magazines. So I was just going to throw them out, but I think I'm going to just make paper beads out of them. My daughter and I, we went to a free art show, and it was really neat. It was a nice selection of vendors. And of course, you always have the jewelry people, you have the pottery people, some really nice things. And one booth, the woman was totally dedicated to recycled paper beads, and it was beautiful. You know, all her beads were kind of alike. They weren't fancy beads, but you know, you can take like a page from a magazine that's all mostly yellow and orange and coordinate the colors so that you can make your own jewelry out of that. Just get some inexpensive fishing line, and all you need is like a bamboo skewer. You cut strips, you wind them around. Eventually, I'll make a video on how I do that once I learn how. The nice thing is you can design your own jewelry that way. They're lightweight, and you know, especially for earrings, because I know some ladies that wear the heavier earrings, after a while your lobe can start to sag, especially with us older ladies. And I do like the dangly earrings, so I'm going to take that up as a new hobby. It's a nice thing to do in the winter when you're watching TV or whatever it is you're doing. So that's a cheap hobby you can do. Just two more things. Um, Actually, just one more thing. I color my own hair. Uh, I've been doing it for years. It's not rocket science. Now, I was a hairdresser for 30 years, but that was over 20 years ago. I still cut my own hair. I cut my family's hair, Tom's hair. I give my mom a haircut. You know, I used to do it at home and made a few extra bucks that way, but I haven't done that in years. But anyway, um, I do my own nails. I do my own facial treatments. So I do all my beauty things myself. So um, you can have your own spa day. And if your partner and you like to do massage, there's tons of books on massage. I have, I bought a little thing years ago. Avon sold it, and I've had it for years and years. And it was a little kit that you put in the microwave with hot stones. And that's always kind of fun. And it's a free thing to do with your significant other. And you can have a spa day together. Okay, my friends, I've done enough talking for early morning. I'm going to have my coffee and get ready. I'm going to finish up my cake that I made, and that video will go up tomorrow. And going to go celebrate our birthdays. All right, my friends, I love you guys. Abundant blessings to you. Go have some fun today. Celebrate everything. Everything you can think of can be a celebration. Well, almost everything, unless it's something sad. You don't want to celebrate that. But celebrate almost everything. Um, Life should be a celebration. It doesn't have to be so serious all the time. So that's all I have for you today. And I wish you abundant blessings. And I'll see you next time.